where we get our daily dose of inspiration, motivation, a lot of information to help us have an incredible day of perspiration, get our butts in gear. So, with that being said, I am getting my butt in gear and out of here, headed to the airport to start traveling to see a lot of you out in the field. Mary Wright, great to see you. And I'm going to be in Chicago Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We're doing an event on Tuesday. Make sure you link with Kim on that. We'd love to have you and some of your guests there. And Kim is going to help facilitate today. So, of course, I'm relying on the rest of you guys that are in this room to help make those things happen. Maria, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So if you would watch the participants to be letting people in, looks like you're doing that. Perfect. Guys, I love you. I'll be somewhere on the West Coast tomorrow morning, bright and early, and hanging out with you guys at Dark 30. And by all means, wrap up today the entire ninja mindset. We got the conclusion and some other pieces. I'd love for you guys to continue to bring in and re-anchor anything from that section. And then for tomorrow, we're going to start diving into the details of the buyer presentation. We're going to hit the appendices number 1, probably be a few days on that, and we're just going to keep logging through the appendices. So with that being said, as always, it's your room. Kim, why don't you start and then pass the torch? Sound good?
Safe travel, Coach.
Love you guys. Appreciate you.
Good morning, everyone. So I would like to know what everyone was able to pull out for the last couple of chapters. Someone spoke. Client, is that you? All right.
Sounds like somebody's got their mic open.
That's what I was thinking.
I think it's Glenna.
Okay. Thank you, Doug.
On the very beginning of chapter 41, maximize the quality of your communication. And they go through the words, tone, tempo, facial expression, hair dress, etc. And they go through here where the words are not the most important thing. Where is it? It gets into digital communication and it not being as powerful as visual or auditory. So anyway, I'm just gonna paraphrase. Essentially, you want to be face to face so that they can see you, they can feel your vibe, they can hear the words that you have to say. And I got a real short story. I just met a guy. I went to a home show to do some prospecting. Met a guy that owns a business. I think most of them were like garage type businesses. Get into a little dialogue with one of the expo people. And he tells me he's looking for a new 10,000 square foot commercial building. We exchange cards. I send the guy a text. I'm going to send some, some listings I found for you. Where do I send them? He says, send them over, boss, is what he said in the text. But I think I was not connected with it. So somehow I got out of that, send them to our boss. So I asked, who's your boss? What's your boss's name? So this guy is like in rapport with me. He said, over, boss. And then totally out of rapport, I respond back, what is your boss's name? And he was the boss. So it was like a case in point of, it being diluted by making it to the digital and text. And
I think you're just a boomer, Justin. That's the problem. You're just a boomer. You don't
do that. I'm older than my years.
I was just about to touch on that, actually. I did a class with one of the title companies out here, and they really talked about generational shifts. and how different generations are impacting the economy, particularly real estate, and how they prefer to communicate and what their needs and desires are. And I remember one part was baby boomers hate digital. Baby boomers hate emails and they hate text messages. Why the millennials will love doing text messages. And I'm ashamed to say this, but as a millennial, I prefer to text. I will text everyone. Justin, as you're aware, I think we've had whole conversations via text message. And I guess my question would be to the people on this is like, how do we cross generations and cross communicate?
So cross communication, you have to ask.
That's what I was going to say.
You definitely have to ask. I was talking to an agent a few months ago, and he said I had the worst transaction ever. And I was like, why? What happened? He said, I got this new agent who never responded back to any of my calls. Literally everything happened over text and email. The first time he talked to the agent was the day of closing. Now that's going to sound crazy to me, and I think it is a little nutty, but that was how that agent chose to communicate. With the customers, it's going to be the same thing. You know, I have customers that work on base. They cannot be on their phones during the daytime. So they're going to email and text. And others, if you don't call them, they think you don't love them.
Is she on her way here now? Okay.
So I'll add to that, Kimberly. Like one of the things
I don't want anybody to get hurt. Okay.
I ask in advance when I meet with them, how do they prefer to communicate? But there's also a point when you have to teach your client how they need to communicate with you to a certain degree, meaning when we actually send out an email in advance, and it's a video of me talking to the client saying, check your email because you're going to get emails. And so we make sure that we send it out right from the get-go that they are going to be communicated to via email. You can't communicate to everybody via text. Like if you have a younger client, if you have an older client that doesn't like email, you just got to tell them. Now, if they don't, then we instruct our TC to pick up the phone and call them, right? So we do prefer to communicate how they choose to, but there's certain things that they have to do. So in the listing consultation, we bring that up then to make sure they know how the process is going to work. So I think it's twofold. I think, yes, we need to determine who we're working with and communicate with them. Another thing we established right from the get-go is that regardless if it's a millennial, a boomer, or Gen Xer, we're going to call them once a week, give them an update. Even if we have nothing to tell them, we're going to let them know. By the way, you're going to get a call from me once a week because I believe there's something you cannot do digitally that you have to do over the phone or in person. There's just certain things that have to be done. So we set that expectation up front. You're going to get a call from us once a week to give you an idea of what's going on. And by the way, I'm also working on our end because we do have Gen Xers and we have millennials. We have to communicate with them on how to communicate with our clients and make them aware of it too. It is a big deal these days, but I think it can be done if it's addressed up front with the person that you're.
Totally.
Can I say one other thing as well? The greatest barrier to what we're worrying about with technology is exactly what we're talking about right here.
I am muted.
A computer is going to be able to do certain things, but this human-to-human communication, people are still going to crave it. If we want to have an industry that continues regardless of what's happening with AI, then the way that we communicate is going to be critical to our customers. We're human still, and they're human. Still critical, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Not so, just a little bit, because she's family and I want to help her also. So you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, just tell. But are you going to be?
Hey, you need to unmute.
You're muted. You're not muted.
Kids after.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Hello, Hagen iPhone.
So Mark, you just touched on something. It sounds.
You just muted yourself, Kimberly.
I think Don muted me. Thank you, Don. Mark, you just touched on something though. It sounds like you're operating with a high level of systems. And I think that too, I could talk about my own business, is that the more systems I put in place and more systems that I use, the easier flow of things. And Robert Camacho in the chat even said Tuesday call with clients. I have Monday. Monday, I call all my clients, whether I like it or not, whether I want to communicate by email, they get the phone call. And it's checked off, going back to what Russ even talks about.
If I'm not mistaken, in the book, he gives the percentage of millennials that actually prefer to talk to their realtor versus text. And I think it's very high. So there's a thought process that the millennials don't really want to talk to us. And I would say, yes, that's probably accurate, but I don't think they don't want to. I think it's a learned practice for them not to necessarily have to communicate because they have text. When in my Bible study, most of the guys, well, everybody's in there is younger than me, but there's a slew of them in their 30s, and they all answer their phone for me when I call them. And I asked them, so why do you guys answer your phone? They said, because we know you're old and you're going to want to talk. You're not going to want to leave a message, right? And I'm completely okay with that. My point is that I've taught them when I call to pick up their phone and answer, because I'm not going to communicate with them via text or not unless it's something like really, minute. But for the most part, what I learned from that is we have to teach our clients, and that's all done up front during the consultation. So you ask them, how do they prefer to communicate? But just want to let you know, I'll text with you all day long, millennial. I'll call you all day long, baby boomer, but there's certain things I need you to do that's digitally enhanced, which is email and or text. And I ask them, do you text? And they'll tell me, oh yeah, I text if they're a boomer. And that's fine. But I love what you're doing. You're calling once a week. I think that's a big deal, because that way, if there's something they do want to share with you, they have that opportunity to share with you. And I would argue and say a phone call is like, I was just working with our assistant yesterday, and she asked about a situation, and she wanted to know how the flow of the contract worked. I picked up the phone, and within 15 minutes, we had the answer. I called the attorney, I called the loan officer, and I said, how long did that take? I said, you would have sent an email, and you would have got it back 3 hours later, and then it would have been something left over. You had emailed me. I said, I got it done in 15 minutes. And really, the phone calls were only 3 minutes apiece. So really, it was only about 7 minutes we got it taken care of. I'm not saying the phone is all the time is better, but I'm just saying you have to, like you just said, Kimberly, you have to have a system set up. And our job is to train our clients on how we need to communicate with each other, whatever our system is. And it's important that we do that up front. And then remind them regularly, by the way, on your phone call, hey, just want to let you know, I'm going to call you every single Monday to let you know what's going on. Even if I have nothing to tell you, I'm calling you every Monday to let you know what's going on. And so when you do that, you're setting the expectation. And like Larry said, if they call you first, you failed.
Ooh.
That's right.
The number one thing people are upset at realtors about is the lack of communication. And if our responsibility is one thing to our client, it's just being a good communicator. And if you're not good, at least be consistent.
Yeah, I just saw Dustin posted that about sharing a video screen when reviewing contracts. That's a real slick idea. And Mark was talking about digitally enhanced, I think was the word that he used. So even, and as we're talking about this, like, I think kind of more specifically with each client, but if we were to use a digitally enhanced mindset to get to the number of conversations that we want to have in a day, if you want to have 20 live voice to voice conversations, and we send out a text, and maybe it's just a little message, hey, I was just thinking of you, how's everything going? You send that to 20 people, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of half are going to respond and get a message back. And now they've helped you initiate, get into a conversation. Or maybe it's sending that as a video to a handful of people a day. So I think there's other things that we can do that touch on the other modalities and will help to leverage more communication in both terms of quantity and quality.
Hey, Justin,
really
let me jump in on that real quickly. I think I agree with everything you said. One thing I would say is, guys, and I said this, you might have been in this meeting a few days ago when I was here, but we need to be using video text more, because it shows us, they hear us, they can hear our tonation. they see us, they can see the smile on our face. Like, it's important that we communicate through video. It's just south of face-to-face contact. Like, it's just south of that. And I would tell you guys that I would love for you to think about, how do you leave a message? And you said, if I sent a text message to 10 people or 8 people, if I sent a message that said, hey, happy Thursday, I was thinking of you today and I wanted to touch base, it sounds completely personal. I didn't have to use their name. They'll totally believe that I sent it just to them. And I just sent that same message that I recorded one time to 8 people.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, if you will get good at mastering, that's a technology personal system. It crosses over. And if you get good at that, you'll find great success with that. I wanted to go back to something you said, Mark. Oh yeah, about setting expectations. So Mark and Celeste, and everybody's talking about following up with clients. And if you're going to have Kimberly, if you're going to have that every Monday meeting, every Tuesday meeting, whatever it is, I might suggest to you set expectations less when you're teaching them how you operate. And I will call you every other week on Mondays. I'll call you every 2 weeks. I'll make sure that no matter what's going on, I call you every 2 weeks. And then call them every week and tell them, I know I'm not supposed to be calling this week, but you're a special client to me. I love you guys, and set the expectation low, exceed it, and tell them why you're exceeding it. It's a great way to link a sense of above and beyond service for doing nothing more than what you're doing right now. Just remember, people don't, care about what you do. That's interesting. It's how you make them feel. And the more you can make them feel special, underestimate what you're going to do, exceed what you're going to do, what you do, and then let them see why you're doing it for them.
One other cool thing I just picked up on in my relationship with my new client is we have an appointment scheduled for a showing today. And yesterday, I was just confirming with the agent that they're definitely coming today. And I turned around and I sent a quick text to my client just saying, hey, just a reminder, we have an appointment scheduled for tomorrow at this time. And both my clients, I've got them on a twin text. They're both getting the same message. They both responded with a thumbs up and a smiley face and all. And I thought about the fact that how is it that we are not making ways to over communicate, to just let them know, we're aware of what's going on and we want them to know. And that way they're happy. And I'm just saying, in our business, what are those touches that we can make just an extra effort to say, just want to remind you tomorrow this is happening or this is what I'm doing. I just think it would be wonderful to plus our business in that way.
Did you say over communicate?
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
I love that. I love that term.
I've never thought of it that way.
Guys may feel like their wives over communicate a little bit, but in terms from a business standpoint, can you really over communicate? If you're trying to communicate with a frequency that says, ooh, this is too much, you're probably doing the right thing. It's probably just enough. Because in terms of what customers, as has been said, in terms of what customers are saying that agents don't do is communicate. So if we're saying, you know what, I'm gonna flood the zone, it's probably right. They're probably gonna tell their friends, man, I got this agent. They're on top of it, because if you're over communicating as an agent, what's coming across to the customer is that you're on top of it, I would think.
And to think about it, if you were in their shoes, how cool would it be to just say, hey, I just want to remind you about this. I want to make sure you're ready. Or it's an event that's happened and you're saying, hey, I wanted to let you know I am going to be following up with that person tomorrow morning. Just wanted to let you know, so that they're not sitting there going, have they forgotten about me?
Roberto. I have a different
Yeah.
Macho.
Yes. I would like to add a couple things. The conversation has been really focused on us setting boundaries. We really ought to check with our clients and see what kind of boundaries and terms they have too, because our clients are very different. If you're working with a teacher or a surgeon, you're not going to get a hold of them during the day. If the service worker, lunchtime, serving dinner time, if they're in a restaurant, you're not going to get a hold of them. We won't be able to talk to people over the phone if they're in a corporate environment working in a cube with 12 other people listening to the conversation. So we've got to really understand our individual clients and find out how they like to be communicated, what's their best opportunity. Even somebody that works the night shift, they're probably sleeping during the day, turn their phone off. And here we are thinking they're not responding, they're not responding. Well, they've got a completely different lifestyle than we do. And we really need to understand that, because there's certain times of day we can get a hold of them spot on. And then there's also certain times of days that we can't. So I just kind of want to just throw that out there, because it's not just about us. It's about
I'm going to add though, I'm giving my updates to my client with the understanding I'm not expecting them to be giving me the quick response. I don't expect that. But I am thinking that if I'm not letting them know stuff that is happening, am I being delinquent in my level of communication with them?
I think it goes back to what Camacho said. We need to ask our clients how do they expect us to communicate with them. I had a pastor come up to me one time and he said to me, Mark, I am so glad you're not calling me every week and give me a freaking update. I'm so busy. I ain't got time to deal with all that. You just tell me what I need to know when I need to know it. And that's because he set me up front and said, don't mess with me unless you need me. You know what I'm saying? So, and oftentimes you've got a family or you've got a couple or whatever, and they're different, and you had to communicate with both of them differently. So you do really have to ask up front. One of the things I do when I'm on my listing appointment, I have my phone sitting on the table, it's upside down, it's vibrating like crazy going off. And I said, I'm glad you guys were here to see this. I just want to let you know, I don't answer my phone all the time when it rings because I'm busy like I am here with you guys. So if you happen to call me, I'm in an appointment, I'm not going to answer my phone, but I'm really good about returning my phone calls. So I'm just letting you know, when you call me, chances are you're probably not going to be able to get me because I'm in appointments a lot. So I think it goes back to setting the expectation, asking how they prefer to be communicated with, and then follow up on that. And then the other part is going back to, for me, it's my team. Look, don't call this dude. He just told me he doesn't want it. He only wants updates when he wants them. By the way, when you send a text out, they're okay with text. Text both of them. Don't just text one of them. So I think there is some importance there. I think it's important to write it down, in your notes, so that when it gets passed on to your TC, that the TC is communicating the way that they prefer. And it's like you said earlier, Kimberly, if you have a system, it's pretty easy to communicate with them a lot throughout the week regularly, and it's in their preferred mode, whatever it is.
I'm interested to know what everyone's take is, and I'm just going to take this a little bit in a different direction, but communication within the deal. So at least in Illinois, we have attorneys, obviously lenders, title, and so forth. There's a lot of parts to contract to close, and unfortunately, they do fall apart. How important is it to have communication between the attorney, the lender, the realtor, both realtors, and make sure everybody's on the same page?
There are tools, like I think even within the MLS, there's a tool where you could add all the parties to the conversation. Now, transparent, I've never used that. So if anybody uses that or has had great success or failure with those things, I'm curious.
I was unaware of that, but like take it even a step further to what Mark had said about picking up the phone. Like he made a phone call, and what could have been a 24-hour, 36-hour turnaround time, he solved the problem within 10 to 15 minutes. How many times do we have emails about frivolous things, especially in AI and attorney review, that it's like, just pick the phone up and let's hash it out? And it goes back to communication. When you have parties, whether they're clients or other parties to the transaction, that are communicating at a high level, you can really overcome anything.
I think what you're leaning towards, Kimberly, is that you need a system for the actual process of the transaction. And the good news is you're in pain right now because you're going through and you're dealing with it. That's the good news, because it means you're going to fix it. I don't have the answers for you, but I just say you're on your way to getting some form of a transaction coordinator. It could be a virtual assistant, but you're probably there. I don't know how many transactions you're doing, but I feel like if you're doing over 12 or 13 a year, you're probably where you're at the need for somebody else to take care of that. And by the way, the emails and this stuff never goes away. That's always a part of the process. But the thing is, you can delegate that to somebody else and go back to what Larry said, spend your time on your most dollar productive, which is being in front of your client. So you're there. It sounds like it. You just need to build some systems. I would just say, you could reach out to anybody on this call, Dustin, Russ, Don, or whatever, to try to figure out what the next step is to have systems. They already have templates on how to help you with it. With our company, we have SkySlope that has checklists in there so they can follow the checklist. And then one of the things Don always tells me, and I want you guys to remember this, when you're going through this process, Kimberly, for the first time, you want to record how you're building the process so that you can give that to your TC. So Don always says, every time I have a communication with anybody on my team, record it. That's your operations manual. And that way you don't have to do it again, right? So you're constantly updating your operations manual because everything changes, right? So we've got a new admin and she's in the training process. We're like, she's taking notes. I said, remember, you're going to be transferring those notes and they're going to go to a recording and they're going to go into the operations manual. So I'm even having to be reminded to record those training sessions with her so that it's done. So that way, during the time period of resourcefulness, she can go back to the video and remember what we had talked about and how we're going to overcome a certain scenarios. But it's good that you're going through that. I'm super excited for you because I watched when you first came on the call. You're kicking butt and you're asking great questions, and everybody on the call is learning because of you. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
One more thing on that, Mark. I love you, by the way. Thanks for saying that. One more thing about that, guys, is when I think when you're passing power, and it could be for some of you that don't have teams, like Mark's got his new gal, Jevin, you may not be able to rely on this yet, Mark, but when your phone's blowing up and you're in front of the client and you're saying, I'm glad you're hearing this because you can see I don't always answer my phone because my clients are important to me. By the way, Devin will be following up with you. She will be doing blah, blah, blah. And when she'll stay on top of things even more than I will because I'm out with my clients like you, and she knows everything that's going on, right? So pass the power, and then also make sure that when Devin, in Mark's case, or your TC, or your title person, or your escrow officer, or your lender calls them, they're saying, Mark asked me to call you and let you know, blah, blah, blah. So Devin's calling going, Mark asked me to make sure that you knew. Mark asked me to call you and tell you that. So Mark is like the hero. He's still the guy in charge of everything. He's the service personality, and she's the delivery service. And every time you talk to them and say, I saw that Devin and you talked yesterday, she's on top of everything, you pass the power back, and you guys are making each other important. So if Mark steps out of the equation, it's not a big deal.
That's a great point, Don. And remember this, guys. I know you're automatically thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And are they going to believe me? They've already been trained. The doctors have already taught them how to do that. When you go to the doctor's office, you don't see the doctor first. Who do you see first? The receptionist. Who's second? The nurse. And now we don't even see the doctor. We see a physician's assistant. So we've already been trained. They know how to do this, but we have to remind them because most realtors have said, I'm available 24/7. That's what they say in their voicemails. Call me anytime. So we have now changed that when we first meet with them during the consultation to show them that we are a true, live, living and breathing company. We're an organization. And the way Don just put it is perfect. And all of us have that ability to do that right from the get-go to show them we are a company. And even in your consultation, you could have a slide in there that has a picture of you and your team. The team can be the title company, the team can be whoever, and you can share with them how they're going to communicate with you. And you go back to your title company, like Don says, and share with them how to communicate with them. You are now an official organization, period.
I love that. So even though I am Joe Schmo agent, one person, I can act like I have a team. I love that. And you know what? Guess what? The title agent, the lender, they're going to love that because now they're part of your circle. I am going to implement that today.
We're at the bottom of the hour, guys. I don't know who's in charge of the call, but I love that client. What a great takeaway.
Well, guys,
Hey,
Have a
who is in charge, and are we passing on to the next step? Are we going into the appendix tomorrow?
The appendices tomorrow.
Okay.
And for closing out, Marie, are you there?
All right, but are we reading all the appendices tomorrow or just a certain part?
Russ never specified.
Let's take. I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, he did. Just A.
He said,
Just
I think
A.
it was maybe
He said
the
just the
conclusion
buyer's
of what it-
presentation.
Okay.
yeah, just
Thanks,
about
Matt.
his
Just appendix
presentation. We might be there for a couple of days too. So
Yeah, I could see that. It's huge section. Okay, so appendices A for tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome day.